This is Dr. Vaishali and I am reading from the book Substance of Homeopathy, book written by Dr. Rajan Sankaran, chapter number 31. The medicine is aluminium or alumina. Aluminium, the metal is close to other metal in the quality, but the situation is more desperate. Here is the picture of the oxide of aluminium, namely alumina. There are some things that are essential to the life of the human being, and if these are taken from him, he doesn't find any point in living. First of these is hope. Whatever the situation in life, as long as there is a hope, he will live, and if there is a no hope, he will deteriorate and die. The remedy for total absence of hope, example, in a black night, is a syphilinum. Dr. Fatak described the syphilinum in his Materia Medica as a hopeless despair of the recovery. Hopeless despair of the recovery. Despair itself means hopelessness, and hopeless despair means hopelessness. Therefore, the syphilinum is the remedy of the death and the destruction. He could commit suicide or homicide. The second thing is very important for life is independence, and person needs to be able to take his own decision and not to be dominated by somebody else. The remedy when you take away a person's independence totally is a mercurius. He become a revolutionary, defiant, homicidal or the suicidal. The third thing that is required is acceptance in the society, some religious feeling. You take this away from man and you will have a aurum. Then suicidal tendency again is found in the aurum. The fourth thing is a sense of individuality or the identity. I am a Rajan and you are so and so. I have this quality and you have this quality. I am so and you are so and so. A sense of individuality is of utmost importance right from the childhood. You ask a child, what is your name? And she says the name, and identity is given by this way. You take away the identity, you don't know who you are, and there is a no name, no quality, and you get the story of the alumina. These four are the greatest antisyphilitic remedy: syphilinum, aurum, mercurius, alumina. We have with no hope, no independence, and no morality and no individuality. So the symptom of the alumina are mainly symptom of the identity and individuality. Rubrics are delusion hate belongs to another, delusion conscience belongs to another, delusion error of personal identity, feels as if somebody else has heard or said something when he has heard or said, means head belongs to another, which is mentioned in the Fatak's Materia Medica. Contradictory to speech, intention are inconstancy in thoughts, undertake many things but persist in nothing. This there is a rubric in alumina. She gets an impulse to cut herself even though she abhor his idea. What does it indicate? Impulsiveness, destructiveness, suicidal impulse, or weak resolution, and timidity and fear. All this confused feeling give the picture of alumina. Confusion of identity. Probably the most important remedy for this in the Materia Medica is alumina. The situation of alumina arises from the conflict between the parent and the child, where the child is not being given identity. Whatever the child does, they say, no, not this. His identity and individuality have been broken down. Whatever the child says is not right. You are no one, you know nothing, and then come despair. I don't know what to do. I don't know what I am. I don't know who I am. I don't know what I want. I don't know what I want to be, and I am so small. I am so timid and completely dependent on parents. Conversation with one of this patient about his mother. I always run to her for help, and she always breaks my identity. She finished me off. Whatever my opinion is, it has no value. She makes me lose confidence in myself. From that situation, one of the most important needs of man to feel I am someone is lost. So the rubric is delusion head belongs to another. He doesn't even know to whom his head belongs to. We use our head to think. He feels somebody else thinks for him and he cannot think for himself. His real identity is being suppressed, is being pushed in. So he has to mold himself according to what people want, and then there is a fight, there is a violence, suicide, morbid impulse by shooting himself, and scorn, element from scorn, and contemptuous like a platina. And he has some symptom like a delusion, he is a great, laugh contemptuously, and one very important symptom which is fastidiousness. A man who has lost his identity has to do everything perfectly according to somebody else, otherwise, he feels completely humiliated and finished. The will is taken away from the person, and so you have the symptom weak will. And similarly, the wheel is also taken from the muscles too, and he cannot move properly. He has no balance. I think alumina will be a good remedy for the left-handed children who are compelled to write with the right hand, as they are compelled to lose their identity and will be confused whether they are left-handed or right-handed. So, when you force child to be something other than what he naturally is and really force him, you are laying seeds of the alumina. It is similar in the man having his own characteristic. If you say no, make him behave as you want. If you crush his idea. For example, the Chinese situation is what the China everybody is made to wear the same trouser and the same t-shirt and same color. You are supposed to have the same number of children. Identity is lost completely. There is a confusion of identity. The man is not allowed to be himself. His will is taken away from him. He is helpless man. He is dependent on you. He cannot walk on his own, and he is told, no, you should not be like this, and he is pushed into the corner. Someone trying to be other than what he is will end up in the boredom and confusion, in violence and in fear. For example, in the school situation, the student want to play to the jump around and to dance, and you put them in the corner and say you have to study and be a doctor, and again you are creating the alumina. Do not take away the individuality of a person. Let him be himself. Some rubrics are blood or knife cannot look at. Thought frightful on seeing blood or a knife. An explanation of this rubric can be found in another rubric. Suicidal disposition on seeing blood or knife. She has horrid thoughts of the killing herself, although she abhors the idea. Means drop the idea. He is afraid to look at blood or a knife, afraid of the impulse. Natrum self has a fear of being left alone, lest he should injure himself, which is similar, but as in aurum, Natrum self has no split feeling. In the case of alumina, it is as if she were two person and a split personality. The desire for suicide point to depression and despair. But in alumina, this is the changeable. One side is one side is depressed and other side is not. Nothing is fixed. It is a chaotic. He doesn't know who he is or what he wants. The main feature of alumina, therefore, is a split in identity, personality, or a self. Aluminum oxide is the hard substance that form aluminum that give the hardness of the metal. Since aluminum is the soft, easily malleable metal, the filling of alumina inside too is soft and easily moldable. So there is no identity. So he needs to be hard and rigid to keep up his identity. In the cope-up state, the alumina patient can be quite hard and rigid, as the following rubrics demonstrate the hardness, like timidity alternate with the assurance, defiant, obstinate resist wish of others. Now discussing the case, a man about the 38 year, he has a mustache and wear glasses. He is a research scientist working in the big shop manufacturing company. He worked with the chemical, has a complaint of chronic eczema for many years on the face and the neck. This is a follow-up interview and the patient is asked to tell his story from beginning. He'd fold his arm. He would like to ask you how exactly you would like me to proceed. What would be the ideal way of saying? Tell me about the complaint. What you came with, and then what happened? I asked, and he say it started with a skin eruption 10 years back. My mother's side had skin eruptions too. It started with the two red spots on the cheeks, and I used to apply a ointment. uh, Observation was what? His voice goes up and down all the time. 5 to 6 years after, I recur with, he said, 5 to 6 years after, recur with the red patches in the skin. There was oozing of sticky fluid on scratching. This persisted for quite some long time. I used to take a steroid and other creams. It was suppressed for the time being. I thought the problem was over. After 4 years, it deteriorated, and the skin had deteriorated, and placing of the hand on the skin used to cause a pain. The eczema produced liquid, and he can have the feeling of a cobweb on his face. We can see that he has a very impersonal way of talking. He rarely uses I or my. The itching sensation was almost wild. I decided to try homeopathy. I show someone for 2 years. It become a permanent feature on the face. And with the homeopathic treatment, I came out of that. I stopped the treatment. That was probably a mistake. It appeared and the face became a bright red. It is worse from sunlight. Fortunately, for me, I came back to the homeopathy. It is now under control. He continued to talk about his skin in a very unemotional, long winded way. The problem has now more or less vanished. There is no itchy sensation. Everything he says is in a great detail and sound very detached. Overall, I would say this has been brought under the control. He sounds like a scientist. Tell me about your nature, I asked. And what will he say? Can you imagine? Yes, in fact, I was wondering about this factor. The nature of person is very important. A factor which make a lot of difference. The ability to live in the environment. I am fairly ambitious. I strive for things when I can. Having lived in the community for some time, I have become quite choosy over who I want to live with. He likes to argue a lot, pick an argument persistently with the others. Not this language. One would say this is a factor. This is someone else. This is the main theme of the case. He is not connected with himself, the main rubric of confusion of identity. He is fear of being losing control. He is afraid of letting go. He sounds very dry and boring. There is no life in him. He is like a machine, a robot, which remedy needs to keep in control. The alumina, when talking with the eye closed, which who fall down, needs to keep watching to keep control. The main feeling of alumina is fear of losing control. The feeling is as though another has said it or seen it. Delusion thinks someone else see for him. He speaks as though someone else was talking and not him. In the proving, the prover could see the different way they were talking. Like Alumina's man feeling is loss of control, feeling that someone else would take control of the mind and the body, and dreams were of a boat floundering, as if the boat loses control. I must keep this boat steady. This man is very steady, control in the way he talk. This man feels he needs self control. It is a syphilitic remedy. Suicidal impulse and a tremendous need to keep control. Fear on seeing blood or the knife. Impulse to kill at the sight of the knife. He shakes because he feels he cannot control it and feels he is finished inside. Inside the person is very soft, finished. Inside the person is very soft, molded easily, and can be shaped. In order to make it difficult for someone to shape him, he has to be hard on the outer side. Inside is the fear of losing the hardness. It is the conflict of the fear and self assurance. He put up a stiff front If he gives way, something will take over. So he argues hours to maintain his position. When someone argues endlessly, it is only to establish his own identity. He has to create retain the identity which he does not feel he has. He doesn't have emotions he can express. It is all shaky. The words are the cover to uncontrolled, confused inside. He does not use the word I because he does not know what I is. When he says things, he doesn't know who has said it, himself or someone else. After the remedy, the skin is better, but the state of the mind is the same. This is a deep case. You can't expect the quick changes in the emotions and nature within a few months. Next follow-up was he talks about his skin still sounding detached, but there are more eyes in his talk and little more animation in his voice and on his face. The state of mind will take a long time to change. He is using now his hand to describe his symptom. Before he never used his hand. Now I ask, how are you emotionally? And he say, I used to wake up in the night very suddenly. Now that is not there. He needs to shake another person's up in the argument because he is shaking inside. I repeated the one dose of alumina 10 after twice a year as needed. Then alumina is associated with the boron in the periodic table. The remedy made from the boron is a borax. Borax shows with alumina the symptom of cobweb sensation on the face, which represent the confusion. Borax has as its main symptom fear of downward motion. The main feeling behind fear of downward motion is feeling of losing the control. Therefore, the child clings to mother or the nurse when he is put down. There is also starting from the nose is a symptom. It has also fear of upward motion. I remember one case referred by the colleague, which was quite confusing. We elicited one dream from the patient, like dream of a giant tempoline. He falls down on to it and then goes up again. He's feeling in the dream of a fear. After eliciting this dream, we could see that his view of his life was as if it is going up and down, and there was feeling he couldn't control it, which produced anxiety. The feeling of not being in control seemed against in like a alumina. Thus, there seems to be a common factor theme in borax and alumina needs for stability. In, in nuclear reactor, a set of control rods made of a boron or the cadmium or used for the which is used for the stability. If the danger of the fission chain reaction getting out of the control is anticipated, these rods are used to arrest the reaction as they absorb the neutron rapidly. The fuel for the reactor is provided by the neutron source, which is uranium and plutonium. We see that the certain remedies have common themes, and when they are grouped together, they fall naturally into the classification already established by the science. One based on which is one based on the periodic law. Although I had come this far, I was still quite surprised when, on looking the periodic table, see a chart, I found that the natrum and potassium fall in the same group. We know from our knowledge of the materia medica that both natrum and kali have a strong theme of relationship. In the next group, we find the magnesium, calcarea, and baryta, which also have the common theme of need for support. Even before my attention had been drawn to the periodic table, I knew that the halogen group means group 5A have much in common. This had also been confirmed by the proving of the iodine described later, which while this process of discovering the natural relationship of remedy was exciting. I had yet to understand how such beautiful arrangement of elements had been arrived at. I needed to understand the elements themselves, their properties, and the basis of their grouping in chemistry. After a brief elementary study of the chemistry, I could understand the broader aspect of the classification much better. I shall give a brief summary of what I learned, beginning with a short introduction to the periodic table.